Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the weight of 4,000 years pressing down like layers of sand and stone. Beneath the desert floor of modern Iraq, clay tablets sleep in darkness, holding secrets that predate the Bible, the Iliad, even the earliest whispers of recorded history. Tonight, we're going to uncover the oldest story humanity ever chose to preserve and discover why, after all these millennia, it still calls to something deep within our souls. Welcome back to the Drowsy Historian, where ancient stories become dreams, and dreams become doorways to forgotten worlds. I'm your guide through the mists of time, and tonight we begin a journey that will change how you see yourself, your friendships, and the very meaning of what it is to be human. The story we're about to enter together isn't just the world's first great epic. It's a mirror reflecting our deepest fears about loneliness, death, and the desperate search for something eternal in a world that constantly reminds us how fragile we are. Picture this. The year is roughly 2100 BCE. The world is young, and the line between gods and mortals is gossamer thin. In the fertile valley between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, mighty cities rise like mountains from the endless plains. The greatest of these is Uruk, a marvel of mud, brick, and ambition, where the first true civilization learned to write, to trade, to dream of immortality. And ruling over this jewel of the ancient world is a king unlike any other. Let me paint this world for you in colors that will follow you into sleep. The air in ancient Uruk carries a scent of cedar and incense, mingling with the richer smell of the great river that gives life to everything it touches. Temple ziggurats climb toward heaven like stone ladders, their shadows falling across bustling marketplaces where merchants from distant lands haggle in languages that sound like music. The sun beats down mercilessly during the day, turning the world bronze and gold. But as evening approaches, the air grows sweet with a promise of coolness. Women balance clay jars on their heads as they walk to the river, their bare feet knowing every stone in the path. Children chase each other through narrow alleys, their laughter echoing off walls that have stood for centuries. But there's something else in the air of Uruk, something that makes the merchants hurry a little faster toward the safety of the inner city as darkness falls. Something that causes mothers to pull their children closer when they hear certain footsteps approaching. You see, this is a world where the supernatural isn't supernatural at all. It's simply another layer of reality. Gods walk among mortals, though they prefer to remain unseen. Demons lurk in the spaces between shadows. And magic is as real as the bread cooling on windowsills and the wine fermenting in underground chambers. It's a world where a single man can be so powerful, so beautiful, and so terrifying that his very existence warps the fabric of reality around him. In the heart of this magnificent and dangerous city stands a palace that defies description. Its walls rise 7 stories high, decorated with glazed tiles that capture sunlight and throw it back in dancing patterns of blue and gold. Gardens hang from its terraces like green waterfalls, filled with flowers that bloom only in the light of the full moon. And within those walls lives our story's central figure. His name is Gilgamesh, and to speak it is to invoke something that transcends ordinary kingship. 2/3 divine, 1/3 mortal, though what that truly means, no living soul can fully comprehend. He stands taller than any man has a right to stand, his shoulders broad enough to bear the weight of mountains. His hair flows like a lion's menere, dark as the fertile earth after rain. And his eyes hold the deep, unsettling beauty of someone who has never known defeat, never known want, never known the simple, humanizing experience of being told no. When Gilgamesh walks through his city, the very stones seem to recognize his footsteps. Market vendors bow so low their foreheads touch the dust. Soldiers who have faced death in a dozen battles find themselves trembling like children. And the people of Uruk have learned to look away when their king approaches, because there's something in his gaze that reminds them of their own mortality. But here's what makes Gilgamesh more than just another tyrant king from an ancient story. He's brilliant, devastatingly, dangerously brilliant. He can solve riddles that have puzzled the wisest scholars, compose poetry that moves even the gods to tears, and build monuments that will outlast the very stars. He is also heartbreakingly, soul-crushingly alone. Imagine, if you will, what it might feel like to be the strongest person in the world, and to know that everyone around you is afraid. To be the most beautiful, and to see people look away. To be the wisest, and to find no one who can truly understand the thoughts that fill your mind in the dark hours before dawn. Gilgamesh rules over thousands of people, but he has never had a single friend. This loneliness doesn't make him gentle. Instead, it makes him cruel in ways that only someone who has never experienced genuine connection can be cruel. He takes what he wants without asking. He demands a first night with every new bride, leaving heartbroken grooms to wonder if their love will ever be their own. He conscripts the strongest young men for building projects that serve no purpose except to display his power. And yet there are moments when the mask slips, when the divine perfection cracks just enough to reveal something achingly human underneath. Sometimes, late at night when the palace sleeps around him, Gilgamesh stands on his highest balcony and stares out at the stars. And in those moments, if you knew where to look, you might see tears on the face of the world's most powerful man. Not tears of sadness, exactly, but tears of a longing so deep he doesn't even have words for it. He dreams, you see, dreams of someone who could stand beside him as an equal, someone who wouldn't bow or tremble or look away, someone who could challenge him, understand him, perhaps even love him. But such a person doesn't exist. Or so he believes. While their king contemplates the stars and nurses his cosmic loneliness, the people of Uruk suffer in ways both grand and heartbreakingly small. Picture a young woman named Shamhat, though a story intertwines with ours in ways we'll discover later. She is beautiful in the way that catches a king's attention, which in Uruk is not a blessing but a curse. Every morning she wakes hoping this won't be the day Gilgamesh notices her. Every evening she thanks the gods for another day of invisibility. Or consider Enkidu, a shepherd whose flocks graze the hills outside the city walls. He is strong, honest, beloved by his animals and respected by his fellow herders. But when Gilgamesh decides he needs more stone for his latest monument, Enkidu's pastures are seized, his sheep scattered to the winds. He stands in the ruins of his life, watching his livelihood disappear into the king's endless appetite for grandeur. The noise never stops in Uruk. Day and night, Gilgamesh's building projects consume the city like a fever. Workers collapse from exhaustion, only to be replaced by fresh conscripts dragged from their homes. Fathers kiss their sons goodbye, knowing they may never return from the king's service. Mothers learn to hide their beautiful daughters, praying they'll be overlooked when Gilgamesh's agents come seeking entertainment for their master. But perhaps most heartbreaking of all is what happens to hope itself in a city ruled by someone who sees other people as beautiful objects to be collected or useful tools to be employed. The people of Uruk are learning to live with their heads down, their voices quiet, their dreams small. They are forgetting what it feels like to laugh freely, to love without fear, to plan for a future that isn't subject to their king's whims. And this is when the gods finally take notice. High above the world of mortals, in a realm where light has substance and thoughts take physical form, the great gods of Mesopotamia hold council. Their voices carry the weight of creation itself, and when they speak, reality listens. Anu, the sky father, whose will shapes the very firmament, speaks first. His voice carries the authority of storm clouds and the patience of eternity. The people cry out, he says, and each word falls like thunder. Their prayers rise to us like smoke from burning cities. How long shall we allow this child of ours to torment those we created to save us? Enlil, god of wind and earth, answers with a voice of hurricanes barely held in check. He is magnificent, Enlil admits, but magnificence without wisdom is destruction. He breaks what he should protect, consumes what he should nurture. The balance tips toward darkness. But it's Uruk, the mother goddess, creator of clay and breath and the spark of life itself, who sees deepest into the heart of the problem. Her voice carries the tenderness of a mother and the terrible wisdom of one who has witnessed the birth and death of countless worlds. "Look closer," she whispers, and her words reshape reality around them. "See what we have wrought in our pride. We made him too perfect, too beautiful, too strong. We gave him godlike power, but not godlike understanding. He is like a child wielding a sword, magnificent and terrible and utterly alone. He needs a companion," she continues, "someone who can stand as his equal, who can show him what it means to love and be loved, someone who can teach him that true strength comes not from domination, but from connection." The other gods consider this wisdom. In the realm of the divine, time moves differently. Centuries can pass in moments, or a single heartbeat can contain the span of mortal lifetimes. They see forward and backward through the stream of possibility, watching potential futures unfold like flowers blooming and withering in fast forward. "But where shall we find such a being?" asks Anu. "Who among mortals could stand before Gilgamesh without trembling? Who could match his strength, his beauty, his terrible divine nature?" Uruk smiles, and her smile carries a promise of miracles. "We shall not find him," she says. "We shall make him. From clay and wind and the essence of wildness itself, I will create a man who is Gilgamesh's equal in all things, but who has learned what our beautiful tyrant has never known. The meaning of friendship, the value of sacrifice, the joy of protecting rather than possessing." And so the gods begin to plan the creation of someone who will change the world. In the wilderness beyond the walls of Uruk, where no city light has ever touched the darkness and no human footprint has ever marked the earth, Uruk begins her work. She kneels beside a stream that has run clear and cold since the world was young, where deer come to drink and eagles nest in the ancient cedars. Her hands, which once shaped the first human beings from the mud of creation, reach into the bank and lift clay that gleams like starlight. But this is not ordinary clay. Mixed with earth from the highest mountains and sand from the deepest ocean floors, blessed with water from the river of eternity itself, it holds potential that pulses like a heartbeat. As Uruk works, shaping and molding with infinite care, the very air around her shimmers with power. She forms a figure that matches Gilgamesh in height and strength, but where the king's beauty is polished and perfect like a statue, this new being has the wild handsomeness of untamed nature. His hair flows long and free, never knowing scissors or comb. His muscles are powerful but lean, built not for intimidation but for survival, for running with wolves and climbing cliffs and swimming against fierce currents. When the body is complete, Uruk breathes into it not just life, but something more, the essence of everything Gilgamesh lacks. Compassion flows through the clay like golden wine. Gentleness settles into the forming bones like morning mist. And love becomes the very rhythm of the new being's heartbeat. But Uruk is wise. She knows that to make this wild man truly Gilgamesh's equal, he must first become fully himself. So she breathes into him one more gift, the soul of the wilderness itself. When consciousness first flickers behind a new being's eyes, he doesn't see Uruk or the stream or the starlit sky above. Instead, he sees everything. Every blade of grass, every flutter of moth wings, every distant howl of wolves calling to their pack. He is connected to it all, part of it all, as natural and necessary as rainfall or sunrise. The goddess speaks his name for the first time, and it becomes part of the fabric of existence, Enkidu. And Enkidu rises from the riverbank, clay no longer, but flesh and blood and wild spirit. He doesn't walk. He moves like when made visible, like strength given form. The animals don't flee from him. They recognize him as kin. Gazelles nuzzle his hands. Lions purr at his approach, and eagles circle overhead as if celebrating his birth. He learns the world through touch and taste and instinct. He discovers that certain berries are sweet, that stream water tastes different in morning than at midnight, that the fur of wolves is softer than it appears. He learns to run with the herds across endless plains, to sleep under stars that seem close enough to pluck from the sky, to understand the language that animals speak with their eyes and movements. For days and weeks and months, Enkidu lives in perfect harmony with the wild world. He knows nothing of cities or kings or the complications of civilization. He has never seen a wall, never heard the sound of metal striking metal, never tasted bread or wine or the thousand complexities of human culture. But sometimes he stops in his wandering and stares toward the distant glow on the horizon where Uruk's torches light the night sky. And in those moments, something stays in his chest, a longing he doesn't understand, a sense that somewhere out there waits something important, something that will complete him in ways a wilderness never can. He doesn't know yet that this longing has a name. He doesn't know that it will lead him to friendship, to love, to heartbreak, and to adventures that will echo through eternity. He doesn't know that in a palace not so very far away, a lonely king sometimes stands on his balcony and stares out at the wilderness, feeling an answering pull towards something he can't name. But the threads of fate are already weaving together. And soon, very soon, these two perfect beings, created to be mirrors of each other, will meet. If you'd like more stories like this, feel free to subscribe. There's always another dream waiting. We're just beginning our journey through the oldest story ever told. And tomorrow night we'll discover how a simple hunter's trap will set in motion events that will shake both heaven and earth. But let me leave you tonight with a secret, a whisper of what's to come that will carry you gently into sleep. Far from a wilderness where Enkidu runs with his animal brothers, and far from the palace where Gilgamesh broods in his magnificent isolation, there lives an old hunter named Hirashtu. He is a practical man, weathered by years of reading animal tracks and understanding the rhythms of the wild. For 3 days now, something has been wrong with his traps. The snares he sets with such careful precision are broken, not by the animals he meant to catch, but by someone or something that moves through the forest like a guardian spirit, freeing every creature before harm can come to it. At first, Hirashtu is merely frustrated. These are his livelihood, after all, and winter approaches with its hungry months. But as he crouches beside yet another destroyed trap, examining the strange tracks in the mud, a chill runs down his spine that has nothing to do with the morning air. The footprints are human, but no human is ever encountered. Too large, too perfectly formed, pressed into the earth with a weight that suggests power beyond mortal understanding. And beside them, the tracks of wolves, lions, deer, and gazelles, all walking together as if in some impossible peaceable kingdom. That evening, Hirashtu makes a decision that will change the course of history. He packs his few belongings and begins a long journey to Uruk, carrying with him a story that will reach the ears of the king himself. There is someone in the wilderness, he will tell Gilgamesh, someone who protects the animals and breaks the works of men, someone who might be. He pauses, struggling for words to describe the impossible. Someone who might be your equal, my lord. And when Gilgamesh hears these words, when the possibility of meeting someone who could stand as his equal finally becomes real, the lonely king will smile for the first time in longer than memory. But he will also begin to plan. Sleep now, dear listener, and let your dreams be filled with ancient starlight and the sound of wind through cedar trees. Let yourself wander in that space between wilderness and civilization, where two souls destined for each other move toward their inevitable meeting. Dream of Enkidu running across moonlit plains, his hair streaming behind him like a banner of freedom, while somewhere far away, Gilgamesh stands at his window and wonders why the night feels different tonight, charged with possibility. Dream of gods watching from their celestial realm, smiling as the threads of fate begin to weave the pattern they designed. Dream of a friendship that will be so profound, so transformative, that 4,000 years later, we still tell stories about it when we want to understand what it truly means to love another person more than life itself. Tomorrow night, we'll witness their first meeting. We'll watch as two forces of nature collide and discover that they've been incomplete without each other. We'll see how a wild man from the forest and a lonely king from the city will teach each other the meaning of companionship. But for now, rest. Let the oldest story ever told carry you gently into sleep, where dreams are as real as memory and love echoes across the centuries. Until tomorrow night, sleep well and let the ancient dreams find you. This has been the Drowsy Historian. Thank you for beginning this journey with me through the Epic of Gilgamesh. Sweet dreams. And remember, the best stories are the ones that stay with you long after the telling ends.